Hey, welcome everybody. We are in Module 2, or you may refer to it as Week 2. Some people will even refer to it as Unit 2, and I'll kind of do that every week just simply because it helps me remember what week we're in. Sometimes classes really go quickly. I always enjoy the class, but to me it seems to go really quick. I get involved in grading and things like that, so that kind of pushes things along. However, as you should be able to see on the screen, we're talking about the learning objectives of the unit or the module. We're going to continue a little bit on employment law and regulations used in human resources. And then the second part is the purpose of human resource investigations. You will find that I do not typically read word for word. My opinion has always been, and of course, you may be watching this at home in your fuzzy slippers, and that's great. But when I go to a meeting or a presentation and the speaker reads the paragraph to me, all I hear is wah, 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 and I just drown it out. I get really tired. My opinion is if that's the case, type it up in an email and send it to me. I'll take a look at it and review it from there. So we've got Module 2. We're looking at workplace investigations and employment laws. So a lot of what we're going to be focusing on in terms of reading and some of those things this week will center around that. And this is the course shell, so you can always see it and find this information for yourself, and I encourage you to do so. So in the textbook, we've got Chapter 3, specifically sections LO for Learning Objectives, 3.1 through 3.4. And what you're looking for is the three branches of government that regulate human resource management. You probably covered this in high school government class, but it's not a bad idea to review. Major federal laws requiring equal employment opportunities. So Equal Opportunity Commission is the regulatory agency, but we're looking at things like Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We're talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act, perhaps the Equal Pay Act of, I believe it's 1964, a number of different laws that will pertain as well. And then, of course, like I previously mentioned, federal regulatory agencies that address equal opportunity in the workplace. There is a video. It's the Ask Jan Expert Question and Answer. Ask Jan is a website that is predominantly addressing accommodation issues and those issues surrounding ADA. It's a really good resource, both as a student and a professional. I've used it a number of times as a professional in my capacity in HR management, so don't forget about that. Obviously, there's a second reading explaining the Title VII rights of 1964. And then lastly, how to conduct an HR investigation, which will be of importance when we start looking at one of our assignments. So, very first assignment out of the box is 2.1, an HR inbox exercise. All right, come on there. It's not wanting to scroll down. I'm going to click over here for just a sec. Whoops, I apologize. I brought these up and trying to remember which one is which. So, I see students in these type of assignments go one of two ways. Let's take this first one. Dear HR, just transferred to the Texas branch. Can the employer reduce my hours worked based on the State Fair Labor Standard Act? So you got a couple clues here. One, location, and they're specifically asking about state. I'll see students that will go, yes, they can. Sorry. Thanks for asking. And that's, they answer it like a quick discussion or question response, which doesn't give the depth and tone. So I want to know how you made that determination. What did you do? The other thing I see is they go to the other extreme and you provide this big long web link and say, you should really look at this resource because it talks about the Fair Standard Act or the Fair Labor Act or the Americans with Disabilities Act or whatever the case is. You provide this link and try and do the work by having the reader go do the research. Employees are not going to reach out to HR for research. They're going to ask you specifically about relevant policies. They're going to want to know the laws and what their rights are. And that's how you should address it. It doesn't need to be a novel, but it should be a concise, at least a couple paragraphs is a nice, good response in which you outline those things. Please use resources, cite them appropriately. So if you're using a direct quote, make sure you offset that with quotation marks, put the author text in there, and then cite it appropriately. One of the things I've noticed in the discussion questions, several people have used a source and they cite it correctly in the body of the text, but then they put they just put the web address. That is not a proper APA citation. And even in discussions, we'll be looking for proper APA citations. There's a number of ways to do that. We'll have a video coming out probably in Unit 2 toward the beginning of the week in which I show you some of those ways to do that. Because I will tell you, that's one thing that I look for in our written assignments very closely. So if you were to look at the rubric, you can scroll down here. Obviously, it addresses the 3 questions, the hours, the breaks, the overtime, but it also looks at tone and format, as well as articulation of response. Articulation of response is grammar, spelling, format, things of that nature, addressing the audience and purpose. So we'll be looking at those as well. So format is clear, concise writing. I don't like bullet point lists. So if you're making a shopping list, great. If you're providing a response to an employee and all you do is bullet points, we will have problems with your score on that. So, and then tone, you can come across with some compassion and professionalism. And really in the tone, that's what we're looking for. Are you sympathetic and addressing the employee's concerns and well-being? So the next topic in terms of assignments is the HRI certificate. This is kind of a get it done, and you get 100 points out of it, I believe, if I remember correctly. Value, yes, 100%, 100 points. So it behooves you to get this exercise done. I don't see it. I can't go in and see the assignment, but you'll submit the completion, and there's an example here of what they look for. I go in and grade it, and usually give you some high-level overview comments. Don't spend a lot of time addressing that. I want to spend more time on the other assignment. And then, of course, lastly, we have Milestone 1. That will actually be due in Module 3, but I want to get it in front of you. And I'll have another video because we're already at 8 minutes, and I try and keep these really short. But start looking at what it's going to take, because there are a couple of different expectations. And you can find that specifically in the what to submit. So that first one is the payroll investigation worksheet. Don't short yourself on that. It says fill out the worksheet PDF and then download the icon and things like that. But please fill that out as completely as possible. And then you're going to do the risk memo, which should be 3 to 4 paragraphs in length. 12-point font, double spacing, 1-inch margins. I don't get super hung up on that, but if you send me a paper that's single spaced, I'll probably send it back and ask you to reformat it and resubmit it. When I read 30 students' papers and some of them are single spaced, it gets hard on my eyes. So I ask that you do at least double space it and use a font. I don't get hung up if it's not Times New Roman per se, but that's what the instructions are requesting, so you should do that. As you can see on the rubric, you're going to investigate the complaint, you're going to provide the risk memo, you're going to outline the pay and some of those things. And here they're talking about citations and attributions as well. So things to think about. Again, this assignment is not due this week. This assignment will be due in Module 3. but we want to get it in front of you so you start having some time to think about it and work on it. That's all I have for this week. I have enjoyed the discussions. People are really engaged and providing some great, interesting information. I want to welcome everybody to the class. I look forward to working with you. And I'll be honest with you, excuse me, the discussions are one of my favorite things to have because I get to interact with the students. I do not care to grade them because to me that's kind of the mundane part of it, but it's part of the job. So with that in mind, if you have questions, please reach out, email, text, however is best for you to get a hold of me. There is a class question board. You can post things there as well. But I try and be available in the class, so don't hesitate to reach out if you need something. Otherwise, everybody have a great week.